Hey there guys, so this video is jam-packed full of information, and so we better get right into things because there's just a lot to say. So it's divided into two parts. The first part is a discussion, and it's about what you should read next. Specifically, it's about whether you should read in variety or whether you should read the same type of books, like the same genre or the same author. And then the second part of the video is my top 20 books ever. I'm not really sure if these are my top 20 books, but these are the books that when I was writing them down just a couple minutes ago, I'm kidding, a couple hours ago, I chose. And so these are the books that, you know, I can remember that I really, really like. And yes, so that's what this video is. Let's get straight into the discussion because there's lots of things to say, and yeah. So to talk about this discussion, I have to talk about two other discussions that were done previously, and I'm kind of going to be putting them together and talking about the two of them. The first was done by Rincey from Rincey Reads. She did a discussion about expanding your literary horizons, and she did it like a couple months ago. And basically she was talking about how most of the people who read young adult, or a lot of the people who read young adult, aren't actually in that age bracket. They aren't really actually considered young adults. And she was talking about, you know, what people think about that. She was talking about people who read adult books who kind of look down on people who read young adult books, and just about, you know, just commenting on that fact and on the fact that a lot of us, a lot of you, read young adult books. And then a little bit after that, about 2 months ago, I think, something like that, Go Book Yourself, which is my collaboration channel, we did a week of videos talking about this discussion, talking about expanding your literary horizons, and we all, the five of us, you know, talked about what we thought and what we thought it meant to expand our literary horizons. And there was a lot of talk about how classics are really hard to read, and, you know, we don't like a lot of them, and how people are kind of snobbish towards people who don't read adult books or classics when they're, you know, of a certain age. But then also talking about how people who read young adult books are kind of, you know, snobbish towards people who read adult books, and they kind of see adult books as just this overcompensating, over-fancy thing that just tries too hard to be an adult book, when, you know, a young adult book is just free to do what it wants to do. And we were talking about, you know, our experiences and stuff like that. And so basically that discussion was about that, and about expanding our literary horizons and reading different things, and how that's a good thing, but it's not like, you know, you don't have to if you don't want to. And then, recently, I think a week ago, Charlotte from Char's Next Chapter did a discussion video about, I don't remember what it was called. It was about how you like something now, or you like something then, and then you don't like it anymore, like how your reading habits or the books that you really, really like change. And she was talking about how, you know, she's liked this certain book before, and then she rereads it and she doesn't like it anymore. And I think that happens to a lot of people. It's happened to me when I've read a book before that I really, really liked, and then I read it later on and then I don't like it that much. Or sometimes, you know, it's the opposite. We read books in school all the time that are not very good and we don't like that much, but then we read them later on and we love them and they're our favorite books ever. And she was, you know, she was talking about the different aspects of this, and the main thing that I got out of this, the main thing that I thought when I was like, watching her discussion video, was that you know, there are all these books that I really, really like right now, and one day I could just stop liking them. And I don't really like that thought, you know, that one day I read a lot of dystopian now, or young adult books right now, and one day I could all of a sudden stop liking dystopian. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like I should be reading as many dystopian books as I possibly can, so that when I don't like them anymore, I will, you know, have fed my dystopian hunger enough so that it's satiated and I don't need to read anymore when I don't want to anymore. And so these discussions were they're kind of different to me. You know, they're very, very different. One is saying that we should expand our literary horizons and that we should read a variety of books, and one is saying that we should read, or it wasn't saying that, what it was saying to me was that I should be reading the same books and, you know, read them as much as possible, or read the same authors, so that when I don't like them anymore, I will have read enough. And I don't know, I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, whether you think we should read in variety, whether you think we should read the books that we like right now as much as we possibly can. I mean, there's a limit to how much you can read the same thing. obviously you don't need to read only dystopia books if that's what you like right now. Like, you can read other books as well. But you know, I thought it was interesting. How do you choose the next book that you're going to read? Do you make an effort to choose the book you read? Do you just read whatever you want to? I think that's so much like easier. Like, before, when I wasn't a booktuber, I would just read books that I felt like reading, and I wouldn't care about what genre they were or anything like that. Now I put way too much effort into it, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, I don't know, but it's just what happens. So yeah, that's my little discussion about reading in variety versus reading the same type of books. And I know there's a middle ground, and you know, it can depend on what type of reader you are, what type of person you are. You know, you could read variety, you could be one of those people that read a lot of the same author or stuff like that. It depends on the type of reader you are. I just want to know what your thoughts are. What type of reader are you? Do you think that you read better in variety, or a mixture of variety and the same books, or are you better just reading the same book from the same author or the same genre? Because they're all okay. I mean, you know, we're free to read whatever we like, but I think there are so many books that we want to read, and there are so many books out there that it deserves a little bit of thought to kind of think about what we're going to read next, and what we're gonna you know, put into our minds. Because although reading for a lot of us is for enjoyment and to escape and to have fun and to just read an amazing story, for a lot of us, and you know, sometimes they move in conjunction, it's also to educate us and to make us smarter and to make us just have more ideas and more perspectives, and you know, to just be more informed and to just have another story that teaches us something new. So yeah, I wanted to talk about two different tools that I know about, and you probably know about them. The first one is very obvious. It's Goodreads. Did you know that when you go onto like a book's page, say like you went onto Divergent by Veronica Roth, you went onto that page on Goodreads, on the right side of the page where it says the genres, if you go down, it will say the genres, and I've never clicked on any of the genres. If you click on them, say you click on dystopian, it'll take you to a page that will say all the newest books that are dystopian, and it'll say, all the top books or the most popular books, and then books that are similar to Divergent. And so you can get all these recommendations that are very similar to the book you've just read and maybe loved, and so then that's a really, really good tool to, you know, read books that are similar to the book you've just loved, and that way you can read, you know, similar books and read books that you know you're going to enjoy. The second tool, and I need to read this, is www.openingthebook.com/whichbook, and I really, really like this. I've only used it once. It's basically, there's like this scale thing, and on one side it'll say sad, on one side it'll say happy, and you move the little bar to where you want it. So if you wanted a book that's more sad, you move it there. If you want it to be really sad, you move it all the way to the sad side. If you want a book that's easy versus hard, you move it depending on that. If you want, you know, there's all these different categories, and then you choose 4 of them, and you enter, and it will give you all these suggestions for books that you can read, and it also gives suggestions for books that are similar to each other. But I really, really like the option to, you know, choose a sad book, or choose a book that has a lot of funny things that happen in, or, you know, just, I like that kind of specification, and I really, really like this tool. So there you go, now you know about it if you haven't before. Okay, so now we're going to talk about my top 20 favorite books. And I'm just going to read them off for you from my laptop. I've written them down. I'm not going to go into too much depth about what they're about. I'm just going to tell you about them, because this video's already gone on for too long, because that discussion was really long, even though I talked pretty quickly. And I've divided them into categories so that if you want to, you can, you know, look into a different category than you would have normally read books from and have recommendations from me, or you can look in a category that you normally read books from, and if you haven't read a book in that category, then you can read that. So you can read a variety, or you can read the same type of book if you want to. So here we go. These are my favorite books. The first category is classics. The first book is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which just happens to be my favorite book ever. The next is The Great Gatsby, which is awesome. I love the 1920s vibe. The next book is The Odyssey by Homer. I love Homer so much. This is like the start of fictional writing, and the adventure and just the awesomeness of this book is just, it's awesome. The next book is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This book definitely reflects the Victorian kind of pride and like Jane Austenness in it. but it's much easier to read, I think, and I really, really enjoyed it. The next book is 1984 by George Orwell. This is the dystopian that started it all, and it's really, really one of the best ones. Maybe it's the best. It's really good, really, you know, gets kind of under your skin, and it's just awesome. The next book, or the next section, is adult fiction. The first book is The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. This book was such an experience. I just love this book so much. This is, I think, it might be my favorite adult book. It was awesome. I loved it. The writing, what was happening, the complexity of the characters, it was great. The next book is Tinkers by Paul Harding. Really amazing prose in this book. Such great writing. The next book is The Lake House by James Patterson. This book might not be considered, you know, great literature, but it was so much fun to read, and I was just encapsulated the whole way through, and I didn't even know it was the second book in a series, but I still really enjoyed it. And the next book is Girl with a Pearl Earring by Tracey Chevalier. This is a great historical fiction book, and I really enjoyed, you know, learning about the historical part and the added bonus of having all this complex emotion and struggle and everything that was surrounding the painting that was the center of the story. The next book is Atonement by Ian McEwan. This book was just a book that was very tense and very draining on me, but in a very good way. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was so, the characters and the things that they went through and the emotions that they had, it was so, it was so amazingly written as well. The next section is YA Fiction. I really like The Host by Stephenie Meyer. This book is a sci-fi, but it's a sci-fi for people who don't really like sci-fi, and I really like the story, the plot, the characters, all really enjoyable. The next book is The Diviners by Libba Bray. This book, you guys, written so well. The storyline, the 1920s vibe as well, it was just amazing. The next book is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chbosky. This book, the emotions, oh my gosh, the emotions, the writing, the simplicity of it, but how much that simplicity contained and how much amazingness and like stuff was in just that simple writing was just incredible. The next book is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This book, you guys, it's just incredible. The relationship, storyline, the writing, so many quotable things in that book. It's just great. The next book is 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult. This book is really, I just really enjoyed this book. I love Jodi Picoult. I have read a lot of Jodi Picoult, and this, I think, is one of my favorite books from her. It's just so incredibly written. The storyline, the complexity of the characters, you know, like the things that they've been through, and the twist. Oh my gosh, just loved it. The next section is series. The first series is Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Riordan. This book is such a fun middle grade kind of almost young adult book. Really loved it. It was just written so well, and it was just so much fun to read. Like one of the most fun books I've ever read in my life, this series. The next series is The Game of Thrones by George R. Martin. The complexity of the characters and the story, oh my gosh. The plot lines, the mystery, the craziness, I love it. It's awesome. And it's the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R. Martin. That's what the series is called. The next one is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Need I say more? Just a really excellently written dystopian book. Really awesome. Characters that are really, you know, filled with depth, and a plotline that is really amazing, and a world building that's just really good. The next book is Divergent by Veronica Roth. This book was so action-packed. So action-packed. So many things happened, and they were all crazy, and I loved it so much. And the last series, and the last book in my top 20 books, is His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. This book, or this series, this trilogy, was so dark. It reminded me kind of the Lost Olympians, Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, in that the main characters were children, but just everything that they were going through, and the kind of hidden messages and everything like that, it was crazy, it was amazing, it was so much fun to read as well, and I really enjoyed it. So those are my top 20 books of ever. I was going to say 2012, but no, it's not 2012, it's ever. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.